Hi, y'all. My earrings are noisy. Can y'all hear them?
I thought I was doing something. Those were your earrings. What's that tinkling sound? I don't see my cat.
Yeah, it's my earrings. They're noisy. How's it
That's
going?
okay. That happens. Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 34
Wow.
of CosTalk Live.
So many.
Whoa, what is going on? This is crazy. So today we are talking about wig dyeing, styling, and manipulation. We're kind of covering the whole gamut. And I'm sure there'll be questions in the future. We're not exactly talking, like, we can discuss cutting wigs a little bit, but honestly, if you want to learn how to cut hair, you're gonna have to, like, it's seriously a learning experience in and of itself. It's
We can give some of like the most basic like
yes
stuff, but
like,
it's really something
like,
you just need to
look natural like this. You just don't go like this. You go like this.
Well, I mean that's what I mean is like that's one of those things I it took forever for me to learn is like this right here to get that like natural ends where it's kind of thinned out. You do want to do what Sam just did. Like you want to have your scissors always facing up. Like no matter what you do, usually you're cutting this way unless you're doing like the schoolgirl like straight bang.
Or if you're taking off like a lot at first just to get rid of a bunch of excess, then you want to go straight across like that and then start going in at like a diagonal straight up scissor kind of thing.
It's and like worth it to do like a short course in beauty school.
Yeah, so we'll talk about a bunch of stuff today. So before we do that, oh look, he even has her scissors. Everybody be scared. So before we do that, let's do introductions. Kii-Chan, you've got the kitty, so you've got, well, you both have kitties. So Kii-Chan's first, and then,
okay.
Then we'll go to Jinx.
My cat's closer. Hi everyone, I'm Kii-Chan Cosplay from the Pacific Northwest, and this is my little helper. This is Pepidoo. But I gotta admit, for most of my life, wigs have intimidated me. I have always tried to avoid styling them. I had a couple of stylers I went to. My partner, Sakura, is amazing at styling wigs. I usually go to her, not gonna lie. But this last year, one of the better things that came out of pandemic 2020 is I have really buckled down and learned how to do wigs. And I've been doing a lot of wig styling. And I feel like in this year alone, I've just grown in bounds and leaps with basic wig styling. Like I've been working on my hero wigs, which I have to say are a challenge, but it's a good challenge because I've learned so much just by doing those. But yeah, I'm excited about this episode.
Yay! And Jinx.
Okay, hi guys. I'm Jinx and this is Lynx actually. Hey, get off my cosplay. Hi guys, I've been cosplaying since 2001. I do a lot of video game cosplays. I'm based in Arizona. I've done like West Coast cons mostly. I've done a couple of international cons. And yes, I am a Disney fanatic. I love Jasmine, as you can tell, because I'm Jasmine, and then there's Jasmine over there. So hi guys. I actually used to hate wigs. Like in my very, very first days, I did not wear wigs. Because that like in the 2000s, it was just, I don't know. But I slowly got into more and more into styling wigs and stuff. And I think it's really valuable skill to have. So obviously I'm not like an expert or anything. We're all still learning. But yeah, let's get started. Oh, I guess now it's
and
it's fine. I'm Sam of Thermo Cosplay, and I do hate wigs still. So I just saved the wig styling for last because I abhor it so much.
See, that's funny. That's another thing. Like wig styling is almost always the first thing I do when working on a costume. So everybody has like their starter point. Like it's so funny.
Yeah, my starting point is like a month of research, so I can keep everything super inexpensive, and then I usually make like even some of my biggest costumes within 1 to 2 weeks, just because I've done all the research and I know all the steps. But wigs, I don't know, I struggle with them, so it's okay. Everybody has their strong and weak points. Okay, so we'll go ahead and start with the basic. We actually had some questions from individuals, and one of the biggest ones that I saw was, how do you take a really cheap wig, and I'm actually going to pull up a photo of a cheap wig that I started out with. Like, how do you take a really cheap wig and make it look good? And that's a great question, because there are definitely some really crummy wigs out there that if you don't wear them right, it just kind of brings your whole day down, right? So you if you want to take away the luster of a wig and you don't want it to be quite as shiny, one of the best things to do is, honestly, I did a Jinx from Teen Titans, and this was like the first time, this is like the second costume I ever made, so just, you can laugh, it's fine. But the thing with this costume was the wig, when I got it, was super, super shiny. And it was one of those weird lace front wigs that, like, I don't know, for some reason, the hair wasn't facing the right directions. Like, I think they sewed the wefts in wrong. So I actually had to completely cut away some of the wefts and things. And the wig was still super shiny. So to get it to have a more natural look, I ended up like baby powdering it, putting a lot of mousse in it. I think I used Downy fabric softener. So I did like all of the really complicated methods of doing this. Now, currently what I do to get the shine and luster away is I spritz it with some dry shampoo, brush it through, spritz it some more until it is no longer extra shiny.
Well, dry shampoo is like just the spray version of baby powder, so it works.
Yeah,
works really, really well.
I mean, and it's and the great thing too is it gets your wig smelling really nice.
Yeah,
like
I have a coconut smelling one, dry shampoo.
Yeah, no, and I mean, I have, I'll actually show you guys this wig in a second because I have it on the side for a reason, but I have a wig that I did with a bunch of us got together and we did the evolutions, right? And it was great. But this wig, when I got it, it was the ugliest blonde I'd ever seen. It was the shiniest fake blonde I'd ever seen, and it was horrific. So, like, I'll go through the details of that because I actually have the wig here, and you can see I've washed out some of the airbrush paint. Because that's the cool thing about, like, if you use airbrush paint for dyeing, you can actually wash it out and kind of change the tones over time. But we'll talk about that later. But this is one of the ones where I was like, dry shampoo to the rescue, and I used so much dry shampoo on that.
And like I'm in the boat of, like, I have two wig companies that I trust and love and buy from, and I almost never stray from those ones because I've gotten really good at, like, handling their fibers. So if you end up finding, like, a company that you just really enjoy, like, stick with it because almost all their wigs are going to be the same fiber unless, like, artist specifies between, like, silky and classic. But for me, that's how I got good with, like, I just learned how to handle that one fiber. And I like using the cheap wigs just for practice, like learning how to cut and stuff. But I honestly would much rather just throw that wig out and buy a better quality one.
I have this really bizarre curse. Even though Arta Wigs, Easy Cosplay, all those places sell different size caps, my head is still too small. So in order to get wigs to fit me, I have to cut out wefts. And rather than do that, I go buy the cheaper wigs or the wigs that are made in China units.
Right, with the
all wigs are cheap from China or other places, but wigs that are specifically made for people of smaller stature because they actually fit my head. So like the average, yeah. And I also do like to buy I like to buy the lace front faux human hair wigs from Amazon. Because a lot of them have, like, instead of just having the straps, they actually have like an adjuster in the back.
Whoa.
So like it stays on your head. Even it's like another wig stay within the wig itself. Yeah. So it's, you know, when you have like straps on like a bra that have the adjuster, some of these wigs have those in the back.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
So sometimes you have to go cheap if your head is apparently really small.
I mean, there are ways to, like, I mean, you could technically like sew it in and stuff, but that's like,
yeah. Well, and it sometimes it compromises the integrity of the wig.
Yeah, it's true.
So there are times too where if for some reason you do want you like Kii-Chan said, really like going with epic cosplay wigs or Arta wigs, and they're your bestest friends. You can't honestly glue in some fabric and like pad the back of the wig so that it fits your head.
Yeah, that's true.
This one is an Arta, and then the baby I have beside me is an epic. So
Wow. See, like I always have like these Amazon wigs, and I got some Arta wigs from a friend, and one of them was actually big, and I was like, it was really weird because it was a lace front. I don't know if maybe it was something to do with the lace front, but it was really big, and I had some trouble like sizing it down. But yeah, I think I have like a smaller to medium size head. I think I'm a little bit on the smaller side as well.
Yeah, so that's one thing is like the things you want to consider before purchasing to start manipulating your wigs is you want to consider your head size, so measure it. Mine's like 21 inches, which is the average. I think adults 22 and a half, so that's why I have problems. And then you want to consider the size, you consider the fibers, like Kii-Chan said, you know, is it made more out of plastic? Or is it made out of manufactured hair, which is usually, yes, it is some plastic, but then they also have additional fibers in it, like cloth, to make it more realistic? Or is it legitimate, like, human hair?
Which is going to be obviously easier to manage.
But if you're doing human hair, please see where it's being sourced from. That's really important.
I've never had luck with human hair. I've worked with a couple of those wigs, but they're really pretty, and if you want that natural look, then that's the way to go.
And they're easy
but like for anime characters,
do stuff, but
the plastic you can heat and shape, and so it's so much easier to fuss with when you're doing something stupid. Like, let's say I'm working on Hiroshima right now, and it's literally got to be like upside down wigs. So I'm like, it's got to be plastic. There's no other way around it.
Because, like you said, plastic is easy to like melt, heat, manipulate, whereas human hair requires a ton more product. So definitely a good thing to talk about. So before we go into dyeing, Kii-Chan was kind enough to take pictures of the tools you can use to style and manipulate wigs. So I'm going to pull up that image, and then we'll kind of walk you guys through what these tools are and how you can use them.
So let me just
we're going to go straight into, you know.
I'll mention some of the comments here as well. Joe says, hello, hi. Sarah says, hey, same here, Kii-Chan. I usually start with the wig buying and styling. Now that I know how, I really enjoy wig styling. Yeah, I usually tend to kind of mix it up depending on how difficult my wig is going to be. And Joe says, I have trouble finding wigs big enough for my son. Sometimes what you can do is like clip the wig cap a little bit, like the wig net part a little bit, if that helps, in the back, and maybe add extensions. Like, you know, they make like those like bra extensions, stuff like that. Or you can sew like elastic strips to the end to make it, you know, so you can do that as well if you can't find wigs big enough.
And Arta Wigs sells two sizes of wig caps. They sell like their normal, which is like the 22 and a half, and then they sell a large, which I think goes up to like a 25. So you might have better luck with Arta.
Yeah.
No, they have really large wig styles, because like what Jinx was saying, like you can sometimes get wigs and you're like, this is huge. And almost the nice thing about a lot of like the bigger wig companies is on the wig, it'll show the dimensions. So if you know the dimensions of your head, you can kind of judge if the wig's going to work for you at that point.
Yep. So
that is my arsenal.
If you guys see this and you're like, what are these tools? We're going to walk through them. The first one on the right is a wig stand. It's one of the ones that you can clip onto a desk. I have a wig stand. You're going to see in the corner of my screen, there's like a little weird stand back here with a freaking creepy head. That's a wig stand with a wig styling a canvas head. I like the canvas head since I do have the smaller wigs. Those canvas heads are usually smaller, and so I actually don't have to worry about my wig slipping off when I'm styling it. But even if I had that problem, you can get wig pins and stuff like that too. But the great one is if you're just starting off and you don't want to worry about having a stand, you can clamp it onto a desk or a table, and then you stick a wig head on it or a canvas styling head. And
most wig heads have a hole, and so you can just literally anywhere, anytime. These are great to have. I have one that I have in my pack that's for traveling, so my convention one, and then I have my one that I have at home, because I don't know how many panicked nights at a convention we've been like, oh shoot, the wig's not going to work, or shoot, we need to buy this wig right now. And so like
wig buying.
Yeah. So wigs with the little clamp on wig stands are great for traveling, or even if you're just styling at home. And then there's little clips to the left of it. And those clips are great for like when you need to pull back hair to style ringlets or maybe trim or cut, or you're trying to like, sometimes you can use those clips too. Like say you only need strips of hair that are a certain color. So you can use the clips to pull everything back. and then you can like dip dye or spray whatever you're going to do for certain colors. So clips are really useful for styling and dyeing.
And you need a lot of them. A lot of them.
Yes.
I have a lot of different sizes. Those are just my particular favorite ones because they're really heavy.
Because some wigs don't do well with the ones with teeth, and other ones do. So get the clips with and without teeth. Yeah.
And you can see, earlier this week I posted a video of me working on Neji Ray, and those are the clips I used to do her bangs, and I basically used them to mark off like, here I had to do all this bang styling, so I pulled them to mark off my bangs, and then I left them where I wanted to cut, so I knew exactly where I was going to be cutting, and I didn't have to like fuss in the mirror the whole time. So clips are just a must-have in your kit.
Yep.
These are the kinds that I have as well. Oops. These are the alligator clips that you see, the very standard ones. These don't have any teeth and they're pretty smooth, so I use these a lot with curlers. So I'll show my curlers later. Yeah.
Then the left of that are a bunch of different kinds of brushes. The one with the metal bristles, that's considered a legitimate wig brush, and that goes a lot easier through pretty much any sort of wig. You always want to start at the bottom and move your way up, especially with synthetic wigs. Otherwise, you're just going to end up with knots everywhere.
I also recommend using a metal tipped brush because you're less likely to create static.
Yep, exactly. That's one thing is I stopped using the bristle brushes and anything that was like, had like a natural fiber because I got tired of the freaking static. So, but
I do have a boar hair brush there. So the one beside is my boar hair brush. And I like that one for my furs and when I'm working with some of my short wigs.
Well,
so that's why I use
with
that.
volume, if you want it to start getting teased, that's a great way to do that too. You can also tease with the different combs you have here as well.
I have the natural teaser comb as well as just some classic combs.
Yep. So having a little, like, even if you want to start simple, just get a wig brush at least. And then like a really cheap plastic comb and you're set.
Pro tip,
plastic comb.
Hair stuff gets really expensive when you go to hairstyling places. So my biggest tip to save money for you actually is to go to the dog section in like pet stores. Because dog brushes are almost always metal because it creates less static, which is less uncomfortable for your dog. This is actually a dog brush. I swear to God.
I get them from the dollar store.
And then like these are also these are from a dog parlor. I like them because they're super, super heavy duty and they're less likely to like break on you. Because if you buy, because I bought some cheap ones from Walmart and the dollar store, they're just like $5 brushes, but they can sometimes get loose if they're overused with the plastic because this bolt isn't very tight. But your dog ones, they're half the price of the shears you're going to buy in the store, but the same quality.
Well, and
so I do recommend
easier. Like the dog ones sharpen so much easier than the cheap ones. Yeah,
I highly recommend just go to your local pet store or the pet area and just pick up a pair of shears from there and a dog brush, and you'll save so much money.
Yep.
So can I mention my brush?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
So this one, forget all the black on it. It's Sharpie, but this is the wet brush. So this actually is really good too because it's more gentle and the bristles are really, really thin. I love this brush for wigs because it's really gentle, works really, really well. So that's kind of the one I like to use. So
that kind of brush is very, very good for lace fronts. I learned the hard way that if you're not careful when brushing out long wigs, you can pull the front bits of your lace front out. So when brushing them out, just be very careful about the delicate.
That brush too, they sell them with whiter bristles for curly wigs too. So you can get your curly wigs. Yeah. So yeah, because curly wigs are, we'll talk about those. I have a Merida wig that, oh God. Okay, anyways. So then there's the hair straightener. I am going to say when you're working with synthetic wigs, you must wet them before you apply heat. And you also must confirm that they are heat resistant. If they're not heat resistant, only use a steamer. Do not use a flat iron. Use a steamer and like curlers or other things to manipulate it.
And most places like Arta and Epic and Costa, like all these places that sell wigs like in big bulk will usually have a place on their website that gives you all the instructions you need to style your wigs, and that's usually the first place I tell people to go. It's like, if you want to know anything about the wig, check their website because they'll have all those details out in black and white. If
you're buying off Amazon, check the reviews because there's always going to be a person saying it doesn't survive a flat iron, but it's perfectly fine with the steamer. So just like kind of check up and make sure that what you're going to do, what you're buying is what you can use for your particular character or project. Of course, blow dryers are amazing. I mean, if you want to wash your wigs and keep them clean, I use a waterless system for keeping my wigs clean, but it's expensive. So if you don't want to be expensive and use the waterless system, you definitely want a blow dryer to slowly but surely start breaking up the pieces so that they don't kind of clump together, and occasionally drying it, then stepping away, and drying it and stepping away. It's also good for heat setting when you're trying to create spikes with like gel and glue.
And we didn't mention it with the scissors, but one of these, this is like a trimming comb. They're also very useful for thinning out your
Yep.
your
I
wigs.
have a razor blade that has a comb in that, and I just razor through it. It's pretty cool.
See, that's a really good way to do it too, but those are like, you got to learn how to use a razor blade. Like, this is really nice. And so we didn't mention that, but like, those are my two scissors that are always with me.
Don't have to take the hard route. I just do. I was like, I've got all these razor blades for cutting foam. I'm just gonna start cutting hair with them.
The only thing is that these dull pretty quickly, especially with the synthetic fibers. So that's the only downside.
That's the only the downside.
You're not using it with real hair, you're using it with synthetic hair. So.
Then there's a steamer, and then there's the mane and towel, which is great for detangling. There's also a shampoo that you can use that's good for detangling wigs. You can find lots of wig detangling and shampoo resources online. And also, like everyone said, wherever you're buying your wig from, usually if you scroll down or if you go to the information section, they offer advice on how to keep them clean.
Yeah.
Can I talk about that mane and towel real quick?
Go ahead. You take it from me.
Okay, so it is a silicone-based product. So cover. Hold on a second. What? I think someone's knocking my door. So cover all of your surfaces with, plastic or something, because that stuff will stay for a while. It'll go away eventually, but I had to learn the hard way with my hardwood floors.
I have concrete floors, and I got a little bit there and I didn't notice it, and I slipped and almost like put a towel down.
So make sure you put something down to like cover your surfaces, because you'll find out the hard way.
It's not in that pile, but I have two different kinds of towels that I use when I'm working with wigs. I have a large one that covers everything, and then I have a small one for stuff. Yeah.
I actually get like the sheets and stuff from Goodwill too. You can go and get a couple of sheets or whatever towels from Goodwill if you want to use those. I use those as my covers for projects and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's got to be glue gel and spray. Those are great for styling. And then you've got the wig stay right there, that little velvet piece with the sheer mesh. That is called a wig grip. I have a silicone one, and then I also have that one. I have both. So I have both. I have the silicone for really stubborn wigs, and then I have that one for ones that are perfectly fine with.
And I just say that not everybody needs a wig grip. Sam does, because she doesn't have much hair underneath. If you have longer hair, like this is my natural hair, I usually just make like a braid crown, and that holds my my wig. So so some people won't need it because it might bulk up too much.
Well, and the weight of your wig also depends on it too. If you're gonna have a bunch of clips, if you have a bunch of like ponytails or clips or braids attached to your wig, you should wear like even the silicone one doesn't add much bulk. The velvet one will bulk your wig a little.
I want to try the silicone one. I haven't had one of those yet.
I got it on it. It like brushes your hair back for you. It's crazy.
Oh, wow, nice.
I got this because I ended up with Vaxel Dunn from Critical Role, and his wig is the longest wig you can buy in Arta, pretty much, lace front. So it weighs way too much. And I gotta admit, these work. Like, I can wear that almost all day, and once that wig's on me, it ain't coming off until I'm done. Mm-mm. And they're really nice, and I love it because most of them come with this. So if you're using a lace front, you don't have to worry about it. It's gonna be...
It's good to have like a bigger strip of mesh in it too. You can buy different sizes. Like that one's like a small for like a separation, but if you have like a whole front, they have ones that they have velvet wig stays like that actually have mesh from ear to ear.
Oh, wow.
And actually, the one in that picture is my styling one, because I have one that I use under my wigs, and then I have one that so like Kirishima, I'll be posting pictures later of my restyle of him. When I'm restyling him, I will hang him upside down and put the band around it after I hairspray it to kind of keep it in, because I love this wig, but it's too fluffy. But if I have that band on while it's drying and curing, it'll keep some of those fibers pressed. So I have a band that I use for when I'm actually styling as well.
I got a couple of comments before we move on. So Monty says, I really need all of this. I think everybody who's going to be serious about wigs needs like a whole kit. I really be using the dollar store hard.
It helps.
And she says, how do you feel about heat guns used on wigs? And I feel like heat guns are kind of unnecessary. I don't know. I don't use heat guns.
Just use a steamer, because the problem with heat gun is it's very difficult to control the temperature of it, and you have to be very far away. You can use a heat gun on it, but you better soak that wig in so much water, even if it's heat resistant, because a heat gun is about 3 times hotter than a steamer.
Yeah, so I'd be wary of heat guns. I don't think that they're necessary. So
and that's on the low setting. That's on the low setting. Heat guns get real hot. I have one that like gets up to 500 degrees, like easy. And most of the time, boiling water is between 160 and 190. So,
and Joe says, sorry,
just be careful.
So Joe says, my wife has problems keeping her long, heavy Barbie wig on. Will that band help?
Yes.
Yeah, it could help.
I really
use the silicone ones because it just everything sticks to them.
Yeah, you definitely want to get something. Make sure it's velvet or silicone. I would go with the silicone if it's super, super heavy, because I have had a little bit of slip with the velvet ones.
The velvet has to be turned a certain way. I learned this. If you have to turn it the way where it starts lifting up, and that's what's actually grabbing the wig.
Right, and so they're kind of a learning curve, but like I said, the wig I was using, my Vaxel Dawn, weighs a ton. And so I bought this specifically because I was wearing a wig that was so heavy I had a hard time keeping it on.
Yeah,
and
that's actually why I bought it for my Yojimbo, because I had this wig that comes down to my butt, then it has a bun at the top, and then a hat that weighs on top of it, and it was like slipping back. So yeah, yeah.
They definitely help.
But okay, so we're going to go back to the pictures here. If you guys have any questions, we're going to start moving into coloring. So we'll start coloring without, oh, I had a hiccup. I'm sorry. So let's talk about.
Can I mention a few more tools that you don't have on there?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I never use hot tools. I swear by the steamer and curlers. Like I really, really do. So these are curlers that I actually got at Goodwill. I know it sounds dodgy, but I got these at Goodwill, and they're perfect because number one, do not use any curlers with the Velcro, with the sticky Velcro type, because it'll just end terribly. So, and then you have the ones that are all smooth plastic, and sometimes those can be really slippery. So these actually work really, really well. As you can see, they
use the foam ones too. The foam ones work pretty good too.
Yeah, foam are good as well. So foam, and then these ones with the mesh, which these are pretty unique, I think. I do use foam ones as well, because this obviously allows all the heat and the steam to go through all of the hair. The foam does that as well. Anything that, again, has Velcro is going to be a bitch to get out, and you're going to regret it. So I have these that I use, and then I also have... So then I use the alligator clips. I don't have one handy right now. I use alligator clips to hold the hair. But sometimes you won't want to have the folds that happens when you have like curlers and clips. So then you want to use pins. Now, there are the long pins that I think are called like the haberdashery pins or hat pins, I think, or floral pins are good as well because they're really long. These are short floral pins, but they're long enough. So a lot of times I will once I put the clip on the curler, then I'll stick this into the wig head to keep it at a certain angle so that it doesn't, create any creases or anything. And I think I have a picture I can share.
Yeah, the hat pins are super useful too if you're styling and you're on like a wig head and you need to keep the wig in place. You can also use like fabric pins, but I often find that I lose them easier because they're so small. So the hat pins, because they're so long and they have like a hook, it's easy to figure out where they are.
I have my long pins on my wig head so I don't lose them, but always try to have like a couple different colors, because if you have a light wig and you have white pins, they're gone. They're just
mine are all metal. They have no colors so that I can see them.
One of my favorite things is, so when I got my my Johan wig from Melinda Chen, is there was a little note in the box that said, please double check for pins. I think I pulled them all out, but I'm not sure. I was like, that is such a relatable letter. Yep.
So here you can see that I've got obviously the alligator clips to hold the hair in place, but to prevent it from doing those creases when it's hanging off the hair, I have these pins here to set it in place. So that's usually how I do all of my styling. This is bangs for a Cinderella wig. So this, and then I put them on dry. I style it dry, and then I steam the heck out of them until they're soaking wet. and let it sit there for 24 hours. One of the biggest mistakes people make with steam is they don't let it sit long enough, and they're like, why isn't this working? It has to be completely dry before you take it out. So that's why you never want to do this the night before. You'll always be disappointed. Always give it at least a full day. If you can even forget about it for a couple days, that's even better. But at least one full day, let it dry out. If you live in a wetter climate, probably longer.
Yeah, no, I was about to say, I live in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah.
If you're having a particularly wet season or it is wintertime, you want to leave it in a very dry place to finish curing if you can. If not, then just be sure to leave it for a little bit longer than you think you should. I haven't had too much hardship with it. I just usually leave it for longer than 24 hours after I steam it. And my usual trick is like when I leave it, like, because I do a lot of like Goku styled wigs with the My Hero stuff. And so I usually just find I now have a place that I can hang my wig heads upside down in my place that I can just leave them for 24 hours. I put a couple pins in it. I just let it do its thing. And you'll get really good. I was shocked because like this wig was really pretty when I bought it. I actually just washed it out and that's why it's so flat. But after I was done steaming it, it was like straight up and down. Like it was just stuck. And I'm like, oh, I didn't actually expect that result. How nice.
You can also, if you are in like a wetter climate and you've waited 24 hours, you can start taking a blow dryer to it to make sure it is completely dry.
Just make sure it's a good setting. Like
yeah. Be patient with your wig.
So fabric wig heads. If you're talking about the canvas one that I have back there. I got that off Amazon for like $12. I will find the link to it, but I think it's called a canvas wig head.
Yeah, I got mine on AliExpress, but yeah,
you
can get them anywhere.
The thing about them is they have different sizes, so I'm just gonna post this link here because it should take everybody to.
This is Mona. She's one of the first ones I ever got. My styrofoam wig head. She's been through a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, we're talking about the first ones we got. This is my first one.
My first wig head, was one of those.
Yeah.
Now I have a bunch of different kinds of wig heads because you never know what you're gonna need. So for starting off with coloring wigs, I brought out my Chun-Li wig because this was a super cheap wig that I got for $10, right? And I cut off all of the hair to the same length as the bangs, all of it. And then what I did is I glued it upside down inside of here to create a false hairline. And then I glued all of this down and I glued buns. And now I've got like this whole crazy glued wig that, I mean, it still stretches and stuff because I used wigs that stretch just enough. And this released a little bit because I sweat so much that like I have to put some more hairspray on this one. But the great thing about this is when I did all the hot glue and I did all of the fabric glue, it changed the color of the wig. So I bought some of that root touch-up that you're supposed to use for people, and I sprayed it on the wig to create like the same colorization. And then I sealed it with Got to Be. And it has not gone anywhere. And I've sweat because people always get worried about the root touch-up because if you don't seal it, it will like bleed down your face. This does not bleed at all. That Got to Be glued just was like, nope, I got this.
It's a godsend. Like, if I could recommend only one hair thing, it would be Got to Be. Like, it is insane.
Yeah,
but the one thing everyone needs to have.
Yeah, this is literally a $10 wig that was about this long, and I cut all of the hair off and then re-glued it back to the cap.
Well, don't worry, people who are new to wigs and feel intimidated. Don't do that. Like, that's like way advanced stuff. Like, when it comes to like wig touch-ups and stuff, I like the acrylic more. Like I like going with touch-ups with using an acrylic based paint or airspray or something along the lines. This one here
down a bit.
Yeah, this one here is a true synthetic dye. This one here is from Ritmore. My partner Sakura actually dyed this for me because we were trying to see on the camera the wig that I tried to dye. I tried to do the Sharpie bath, which is one of like the more classic ways to style an older wig. Before Rit dye became super popular. And you can't really see the color, but it was it just wasn't dark enough. I could never get to this shade because this is Suo from Children of Wales. And he has this really beautiful soft green
I
hair.
love
Um,
that color. Like the first time
it's
you
my
worn it, I
favorite.
was like,
So the way she did it is she essentially dyed it like you would dye a fabric. She brought her water up to boiling. She added a teeny tiny bit of green, like an itty bitty bit, because this is a very faint color. And she said it took about 3 minutes. She popped it in and pulled it out, and that's all it really took. So that's the Sharpie style bathing. Like that's if you're trying to do it old school. But this one, you always want to buy it that is just specifically for dye, whether it's fabric or wigs or whatever. Get yourself a big metal pot, and that is your project pot. Never cross anything over, child. But this
go
one
to, I
here,
got this from Goodwill. So. Yeah.
right? Yeah, just get a cheap one. But this was actually like, I was intimidated because I had her do it because it was before I was willing to try it on my own. But it is like the perfect color, and it's almost like all the way, like you couldn't tell that somebody actually did this wig. Like it seems like you bought it. It's in such high quality, and it was so simple. It was just literally throwing it in the dye bath for just a little bit of time, and it's so pretty, and I love it. And it was just a white wig from Arta, and she just 3 minutes in a nice little dye bath, and it's the perfect color. I couldn't have done this myself if I tried. No, the Sharpie method does work. There is a couple of tips and tricks, like ways that like you're going to make mistakes, so just be prepared for that. But now with the technology we have, I almost think that this is easier and less of a hassle. And in the end, it's cheaper now because Rit dye is pretty cheap. Because like instead of buying 3 or 4 Sharpies to do your Sharpie bath, like you just have to buy the dye and that's it. And
I just want to share this is like way back when.
Well, I mean, it was a lot harder to like get dyes and stuff.
Oh yeah. So back then this was like in early 2000s, I probably could have sewn 2 wigs together, but we also were very limited on color. So when we did my sister's K wig,
I have one from Lena I can share too. So
yeah. So this was a blonde wig. So the top is the natural color and the bottom is the orange, is the Sharpie. So yeah, that took freaking forever. That's what we used to do a long time ago. I also did use another, I'm going to share another one that I used with a Sharpie. This was to help, where is it? To add in more details. So I had bought this wig. You can see on the top left, it's a cheap Frankie wig, and it just looked awful with those big color blocks. So I just took a Sharpie and kind of added in all those random black stripes.
So how do you guys build the Sharpie? Natural. Because I know that you can get bleeding with Sharpies. What do you do afterwards to treat it?
I did nothing with this one.
Yeah, so the trick is, because a lot of people are like, oh, well, it bled. It usually is because you use the wrong type of alcohol. Like you usually want the highest quality, 70 or higher.
Like 99% kind of thing, if you can.
Yeah, you want to use the highest quality because like once it's set, it shouldn't bleed at all. I've never had issues with bleeding, but that's because I use the highest level of alcohol I can find. The problem I have with Sharpie, because black's nice because black is usually a very solid ink. The reason I was having issues with this is I bought a Sharpie that was the color that I thought I needed my wig to be. But that means it had a really high level of yellow ink with the green ink. So when I dyed the wig ended up coming out yellow because that's what got picked up. So for me to get this color, I actually had to go with almost a forest or a dark green to get anywhere close to this. With the alcohol because it diluted so much.
That's a good thing too. Like if you're gonna just get into wig dyeing, I highly suggest if you're buying a wig, also buy like 1 weft pack of it so you can start testing out the wefts and see what they do, and then you don't accidentally mess up your own wig.
I have an $80 wig sitting right here that's now my play wig because it was the original one of this. And then my partner was ever so kind and got this and dyed it for me. And I'm like, it's perfect. I never have to try again. But
so my Sharpie adventures were just straight out of the marker. So that orange one straight out of the marker. Luckily it was a color that wasn't so bright onto a red, so it didn't really bleed. But my Frankie was just, strips, and that's where the black came on my brush, but because it was only on the top, I didn't really need to worry about bleeding because everything else at the bottom was already part of the wig.
I don't do Sharpies. I do airbrush, but that's just because I have an airbrush. So like all of the natural yellow tones in this wig, this was the wig that was the horrible blonde color. I kept airbrushing it with 99% alcohol-based paint and brushing it through until it had a more natural blonde with yellow tones.
Mm-hmm. And like that's kind of the same idea when you're doing when you're not using just the Sharpie. So the way I did it is I took the spray bottle that was in that picture, and you can actually see the green in it from what I was working with. So that really, really dark green was closer to this color once I got it on the wig. And that's because I did mostly the rubbing alcohol. It was all rubbing alcohol in that bottle. And then I broke apart my Sharpies and I threw, I think it was like 2 or 3 sticks of the dark green in there to get that dark. Yeah, you can see it looks really dark in there, but once I was done, it came out so much lighter than it should have been. Like it was too light to use, which is why my wonderful partner's like, hey, I'll just use Wig Dyeing more and fix it for you. And so she just did it, which is in my, like now that I know and I've done like Sharpie and I've seen how dyeing works, I would recommend doing the dye because not only is it simpler because all you have to do is heat water with a little bit of salt and then you put your dye in. And if you have a waif to test out your like length of time and stuff, that's the best way to do it and the cheapest because you're less likely to make mistakes.
Yep.
But also the website RIT actually has a color chart of all their dyes and how to get like the color you want, and then it tells you the combination of dyes you need to get that color. So yeah, so now if you're new, if you're intimidated by this, you don't have to play the color matching game. Just go to their website, find the one you want, and use that as your palette. That will be what you need. And just remember, wigs usually dye faster than fabric, just by a little bit. So like I said, this was about 3 minutes max in the water, and I got this like nice baby soft green. So it's just one of those things to keep in mind, but also the RIT website also has like how long you need it to be in the dye, and like it has a walkthrough for you, so it's not as intimidating as it used to be.
So I want to move on a little bit to gradients. I'm not big on gradient. This is the one time I've done it. And this was several years back. I used watered down acrylic, which it did the job, but it really messed up the quality of the wig afterwards. It basically could not comb through it, but it basically did what I needed it to do. So this is kind of the technique I use. Obviously, I did layers and layers of painting with the watered down acrylic. I mean, my gradient isn't even that great, you can see. But that's kind of the technique I went with. I would imagine probably airbrushing is probably a good way to do gradients.
Yeah, and you want to, if you can, you want to start with a white palette, or if your colors, depending on your colors, you want to start with whatever like the base would be for it. So you want to really look at your color charts and see what the best base is. It doesn't have to be a white wig. It can be a blue or a yellow wig. Like if you want to have a green gradient and your wig's yellow, that's not going to be too much of a problem. If you have an orange wig and you want it to go down into red, that's not too much of a problem. Just really think about what your base is.
Yeah. So here you can see the regular color of the wig. I was living overseas and I had really limited resources. So I had bought, bowl of water there, brushes. I covered the whole place with plastic. Yeah. So that's kind of how I went about my gradient, and it did the job, but it wouldn't be good for like a longevity of a wig. So that was really
you can also do too. This is also another trick. If you are too afraid to paint your wig or airbrush it or spray paint it or dye it, what you can do is get a shorter wig and then sew in longer wefts underneath and just blend them. And so I'm going to show like a picture. We talked earlier about Kay for your sister, but I also, my cosplay partner, Lena, did a Kay from Yuri and Kay's. Well, why is this not showing it?
And like waifs are fantastic. Like I use waifs for a lot of different things. If you're adding a ponytail or buns, or like my Aladdin, everyone really loves my Aladdin wig. And all I did was buy a really short wig, and then I got the longest waif I can get in that color, and then I sewed in the waif at the base and just braided it down. And it looks like that's what the wig is supposed to be. And it's literally just a waif, because I was like, I'm not going to buy a long wig. That ain't happening. I am not going to fight with that.
I did that with an Elf Quest wig, and I'll find a picture of that somewhere.
So what did you do with this wig?
This is what Lena did. She took 2 different wigs and she cut them in half, and she found like the right point in the lace to cut it in half, and then she sewed them all back together. And now it looks like it's one wig, but it's not. And you can tell the lace color underneath is different colors.
I have one to share as well, because I did this trick as well. Let's see. So I was making Luna from Sailor Moon, Human Luna, and she's got this like, obviously in the art it's like purpley black, and I was like, hey, I will just take, actually let me go to this picture first. So these are the 2 wigs that I got. they're both Amazon wigs, which this was the first time I learned, like, if you're gonna get 2 wigs and so get the same type of wig.
Same company.
Yes, my bad was that I got 2 different company wigs, and the purple quality was lower than the black quality. So it was this wig is terrible to maintain, but I had the right idea because the purple would like matte a lot more than the black would. The black was perfect. So obviously here I cut each little weft out. So these are all little layers of wefts, and then I sewed them in each layer.
That's pretty genius,
and
though.
people are asking if it would be more expensive. It's not always more expensive. Sometimes, in order to like say you've got a character like this where they've got purple and black, there's no way. I mean, it would be so difficult to separate all those layers and dye those black layers separate from the purple without causing bleeding. You really have to be like a dye expert and know what you're doing. And so you can get, like she said, I got like the Yuri and K one. She got 2 $10 wigs, and for $20 had a split color wig.
Yeah, I mean, this obviously took a lot more time. This was a lot of work, but it looked beautiful in the end.
Yeah.
Again, like my mistake, always make sure they're both the same quality, because every time I had to restyle this wig, I had to like comb them separately, which was so annoying.
Yeah, usually we only go this method for like where there's really bright pops of color with something that's really unusual. Like when I did my Draculara, I was like, how am I going to figure out how to get this pink in? So I just bought a bunch of clip-in pink wig wefts, and then I also took an old pink wig that I had, and I just kind of threw it all together, sewing it in. Some of it I had to glue in just because the pieces were so tiny. There was no way for me to sew it in. So I'm just going to pull up a picture of this. But this one, I have like very little styling experience. I'm terrible with it, but it didn't turn out too bad. And I mean, I literally, the long ones were good. Were like clip-in ones that I just secured inside on I fed it through the lace of the wig and then secured it. And then all the bangs, those were glued in.
That's so cute.
And like that's what I did with my Setsuna wig too, because I did Setsuna months ago now. But those were just waifs that I just basically went through the wig cap and put them in, and then just like pulled them back into the hair so they blended. It's the easiest and sometimes the cheaper way. Like a lot of times, if you check websites like Epic, they drop waifs at really cheap prices. So it's a good way to add in different colors. And we have so many comments, guys.
We'll start going through the comments, but I'll like one more comment too. Like anytime, like if like I said, if your base color will work with your other color, great. But when you have 2 opposing colors, it's very difficult, and at that point, you might want to just start going for wefts.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Sakura made a comment here that I've gradient dyed wigs before using Rit Dye More. It's very easy using dye. You just want to slowly take it out with the gradient process. It's
a lot like
pretty
fabric.
much the same as doing fabric. Actually, I know what wig that is, and I can't think of the character because I'm tired this morning. But like her gradient wig dye looks super cool, and I remember her doing that project because she was so excited about it, and it turned out really cool because I believe it's black with like a purple gradient in it as well, and it just looks really cool. And it's just like it's super simple. It's just very intimidating at first.
It's a lot like long process. You need a lot of patience as well. Sarah says I did Sharpie coloring once. It was for my Nia from Gurren Lagann wig. I used the Shake Paint Sharpie. Oh, and actually worked pretty well. And okay, Shake Paint Sharpie. I've never heard of that one.
I want to see your Gurren Lagann costume.
I've also used for like some wigs. I've also used watered down fabric paint because it's flexible.
That's a good point.
And it works better than acrylic.
Definitely. And of course, anytime you're dyeing, remember that this dye will dye other things too. So always protect your surfaces, protect yourself, protect whatever, and do not do it on the carpet.
And test it, like wear it outside somewhere you're going to be sweating or exposed to the elements and see what happens. Because I did something with like I had my own hair, and then I made a custom under like wig clip, like half clip for a Sombra from Overwatch. And I didn't realize that the heat over time basically made the wefts start sliding out of the little clip that I had made. And like it survived for a little bit.
Oh my God.
And then I learned how to fix it. But I was like, well, this was a test photo shoot, so I'm glad that I tested this because I'm going to a con in 2 months, and that would be terrible if I just started losing my hair.
Always test.
Yeah, definitely always test these things if it's the first time you've done them. You know, even if it's not the first time you've done them, things can always go wrong. So
you can also use, like, if you want something that's glittery, you can use like the tulip spray for wigs and go from really far away and like spray it and then brush it through and spray and brush it through. Because that's one thing too. I've seen people like they want to have sparkle in their wig. And oddly enough, the fabric spray with sparkle works really, really works well.
I have to laugh because we have commented, don't be me and dye my kitchen purple. So
Maya, no!
when I was doing my Vax costume, I was dyeing my pants and I got black all over my counter, which is plastic because I live in an apartment. And that was so hard to get out. I'm just saying, like, please be careful, cover every single surface, every single one that you don't think you're going to touch, do it. Always.
Every time I'm doing some project and my husband comes over, he's like, what is that on the counter? I'm like, I don't know.
This is why I'm like, this is one of those things, like, I'm listening to you guys and learning some stuff, but I hate wigs so much with a passion that I'm like, all right, let's glue in those wefts and airbrush you and we're going to have some fun. But that's just because that's my comfort level.
For me, I feel like I really think about like future use of a wig. Like I try and make it so okay, I can wash it or I can restyle it. I hate the idea of having to glue things in, but I get that it has to be done. Especially if you have wigs like that have things in them permanently. What's Kii-Chan got there?
Yeah, so when I do Kirishima, you can go on my Instagram if you'd like and check out my my Kirishima. That's all just done with Got to Be, and like I said, I washed it out. He's really flat right now because I'm cleaning it up. This one, on the other hand, my Johan, this is all glue. This is actually done with just fabric glue to place every spike. Which is fine because that's what this wig was meant for. It doesn't do anything outside of like Kingdom Hearts or Yu-Gi-Oh cosplays, so it's fine. And like the only thing that we kept natural was kind of the bottom of the hair, but like the top is all cleaned up. And I have to say, so I've had this wig for 8 years. And this is without, like, this is minimal cleanup. Like, every once in a while, because, like, you can see where some of it's coming done. Like, the next time I wear it, I'll probably put a little glue in there just to clean up some of the ends. But I haven't had to touch it. Like, if you want a wig, and that's what that wig is going to be for the rest of its life, then glue works, because it'll always stay that way. You just have to clean it in the same way that Thermo cosplay cleans their wigs, where it's a non-water-based cleaning.
Yeah, it's basically a spray. It's called a wig wash spray, and I spray it inside the cap and I spray it outside the hair, and then I have to let it hang or set. You have to let it hang actually because you want to hang on like a hook that you have like with like for clothing, like a jacket hook, so that the whole thing can air out.
Right. So this one, just know it's a little more maintenance, but then you'll never have to touch the wig again. If you're restyling it, like Kirishima, which was kind of nice because I didn't know what I was doing and I wasn't sure how I wanted the spikes. So I made it where I could wash it out because I was like, I wore it a couple times and I'm like, I don't really care how they fell. I don't like how this looks. So I just washed it out and now I'm just going to restyle it and trim the bangs down a little bit more. So sometimes it's nice to do it originally in a way that can be cleaned up so you can test it out and see how you feel. And then once you've got that perfect look, then add the glue to it to finish it off and be like, okay, that's that wig.
Yeah. And so we're coming back to like the last 8 minutes of what's going on. So if you guys have any questions, please start posting them now. We've talked about a lot of stuff. But basically, the basics you want to have is a metal tooth or like a plastic comb, something that you can use to brush through your wigs. You'll want to have some sort of silicone spray just because it'll keep them from getting tangled and make life so much easier for you. You want to have some method of washing them, whether that be soaking them in a wash bath or spraying them with a wig wash. You want to get familiar with dyes, like Kii-Chan said, and check out Wig Dyeing more and look at the actual color lists that they have and see what you can use and what your base will be successful with.
And we have a whole episode on storage and stuff. So you are interested in like wig stuff, you can either hit us up with message or go check out our episode that's on cosplay storage because we have a very extensive bit about wigs and how we handle our wigs.
So Amani asked if we prefer clipping in wefts or sewing in wefts. I think clip-in wefts are good for wigs that you're going to use for other projects. But if it's a permanent, like if that's the color you always want, just sew it in and make it permanent.
Yeah.
My Aladdin was a permanent. Setsuna was a clip-in because I wasn't sure I liked the Vang style on Setsuna. So I put it in there to kind of get an idea, and then I decided I didn't like it. I ripped it all out. So again, like if you're not sure what you're doing and you're not sure how you want, like this is going to turn out as an end product, play around with clips. I don't know how many wigs I've reused over and over again too. So like if you're one of those people that's frugal and wants to reuse wigs, then definitely go with the clip method.
Clip-in, yeah. And then Maya asked about differences between Rit Dye-More versus I-Dye Poly. So I've used Rit Dye-More a lot for even other projects. I like Rit Dye-More personally, but that's because for me, I have an art background, and so their colors mix very easily for me.
Okay.
But I know that everybody else has their own opinions. Like, what do you guys think?
I mean, I've used I-Dye Poly. I've used the Rit dye for natural fabrics, so I haven't tried the Dye-More. Yeah, I don't know. I really don't.
The Rit Dye-More even works for like Worbla's clear cast art, like their clear plastic.
Yeah, I've done that. I have used Dye-More. I guess I lied. I have used Dye-More for plastic, which has worked. I dyed. I made what's it called?
So apparently I-Dye Poly smells terrible. Yeah, that is Rit Dye-More smells so good. It's like, don't sniff it. It's not like the best thing to sniff your dye. Like, don't get up in it, like huff your dye. But it does smell so much better than
I-Dye Poly. Yeah, pretty bad.
Yeah, I've stepped into someone's house that has used it, and I was like, what is that weird smell?
Please remember, if you're working with a plastic and you're heating it, if you're working with a different type of chemical, anything like that, have a ventilated system.
Yep.
Like make sure you have a window open, make sure you're, because even if you're like dyeing your real hair, you open up a window or something because that's some strong stuff.
And you want like a fan that sucks out the air. You want it like the fan facing the window, pulling everything out. Yeah.
Right. So you definitely want to keep in mind that safety first, like make sure you're working safely.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess that's the difference is they both work well, but I-Dye Poly smells.
Yeah.
I've only ever used Rit Dye-More or Rit Dye, so I'm not sure.
I'm definitely like a big airbrush person. I don't know what it is, but I love airbrushing my wigs and my clothing, and like I think
I have a feeling I'll be turned to the dark side. I'm actually going to the workshop later this week to work on some skin palette stuff, and I know I have to do some airbrushing, and so I'm very excited about that. But I'm like, a new tool.
I definitely would love to get into airbrushing wigs because that sounds like
once you get there, it's like, but it's so easy.
I prefer like the slicing of wigs. I'm like, if I can put two wigs together, I find that easier. So that's always my go-to first is think about what can I take two wigs and put together. And then of course dyeing is my second option. Like, okay, well, this is my path.
So have you ever glued permanent fixtures to wigs? Oh, would you like to see the inside of this wig? Hang on a second.
I hate gluing things to wigs, guys. Even when I talk about magnets a lot, I never glue my magnets. I always sew them in.
So these ears ended up being way heavier than I expected. And so what I did is I fed wire inside of them, and they are adjustable. And on the underside, I have a piece of Worbla's Cobra Cast art, and I have wires, and I glued the Cobra Cast art inside to the wig, so I have stabilization so that this doesn't pull crap down. Yeah. And then I've got glued on, but I also only planned on using this for Leafy on, and so I've glued on fat flowers and stuff, and none of the wig is glued. Like the hair itself is all loose, so I can actually move the flowers around a little bit because they're just glued to certain strands. But yeah, no, I have glued things in because I hate wig styling.
I'm going to tell you my method because I like that just gives me anxiety, Sam. So I personally don't like ever seriously attaching anything that is not a wig fiber to a wig fiber. When I'm doing my ears and stuff, they're all clip-ins. But like, let's say you want to put like, I'm going to be probably eventually working on a Peachy costume from Mermaid Melody. If I want to put like beads in it, yes, I love that show and it's been on my radar for a really long time. But what I usually do is if you're doing something more crown-like, I usually just like make little clips to put in the wig. But if you're doing something that you want to put through the whole wig, if it's a long wig, I would get really thin strands. You can do fishing wire. It's a little harder to attach things to, or just like even getting extra fibers
They
of
have
the wig.
they have clear elastic for jewelry now. So you can
That's perfect. Or like even if you get like waifs and then you cut waifs in, glue the beads and the pearls into it and then attach it as a clip. So then if you do want to wash your wig or do something with that wig, you can just take out the pearls and you're less likely to break them. Or if you need to replace the pearls, you can just pull the whole waif out, put a new one in, or you can just add back to that waif.
yeah.
I just feel like that might be the easier method.
All of them, they're smarter. I just go the expensive route for everything. Like I said, I wash my wigs a lot differently than they do. I use a specialized spray and it takes hours. I have to wait 24 hours before I can even touch the wig again. But I mean, it's clean and I know it's disinfected, but it's definitely more expensive and tedious.
Yeah. So
and that's also why I was a good girl and I invested in the Cos band so that I could put it under my wig and stop sewing shit in. Sorry.
my thing is all about magnets. But I hate gluing things to my wig. So as you can see here, to keep, and this headpiece never left my head. I had knocked it into so many things and it never left my head. So here I sew on pockets onto my wigs and then I put my little magnets in there and then attach it to my headpiece. I don't know, gluing things into wigs, I can't. I have not done it yet.
You know what I do? Instead of sewing pockets, I take a really large washer for my Yojimbo and I sewed it to the underside of the wig because I was using the neodymium magnets, and so it stuck through even with the wig hairs there.
Well, that's
mine is usually underneath the wig cap as well when I do my magnet pieces.
I've got, like I said, I've got the Cos Gear sells a cute band and a headband now that have magnets inside of them that are adjustable. And so there's one that goes over the wig and one that goes under, and you can just customize to your heart's content.
I'm so excited to use it because the first time I'm using it, I'm going to put horns for my Kirishima, and so I'm going to get magnets so I can do my horns up with that band, and I'm so excited.
Yeah, Sam got us one for Christmas. Thank you, Sam.
No problem. So we we'll get back to let's start doing our wrap up where people can reach us. And if you guys do have additional questions or you want links, please let us know and we can compile.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, guys, and you know what? We have our website is live now.
I'll go grab it. I'll grab it.
I'm so excited.
Our website will have like an all in one place for all of our streams. We're eventually going to put up all of our show notes and stuff that that we talk about in each show, so you can go back and reference them.
I want to make sure we have a compiled list of our favorite places to buy things. So wigs for sure. We'll definitely do an episode on this.
Yeah, we'll do a Cos blog and we'll get some stuff. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so CosTalkLive.com. Check it out there, and we're gonna have more and more content as we go. Again, we do stream every Sunday at 12 p.m. Mountain Standard, 11 p.m. Pacific, and we stream on 3 platforms. We're still trying to get our platforms to grow, so please, if you can, follow us on each one, share it. We're on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch.
We also have a Discord now.
Yes, we have Discord now because we had a couple people ask, so we'll post that. We'll post that up on our Facebook page for you guys to join.
Which is a wonderful place to discuss ideas, plans. If you have questions, if you want to bounce ideas off of. Yeah, if you want to bounce ideas off of fellow cosplayers, I know Electric Seafoam joined us. I know there's a couple of other amazing cosplayers that are on there. So not only are we going to be there to help you out and give you advice, but there's lots of other people to bounce ideas off of. And so I am so stoked for the Discord. It is so exciting.
And if you guys have questions for Sam personally, ping one of them because I'm like never on Discord, but I want to help.
Oh man, so that's Sarah says, has any of you sun bleached a wig to whiten it?
Not on purpose. But yeah.
I live in a place that there isn't any sun.
I live in Arizona, and I sort of left a wig by a window, and it was July, 113 degrees, easy for like a week. And so yeah, the top part of that wig was way lighter than the bottom part, and I couldn't figure out why. And then I realized, the sun destroyed it. But it kind of looked cool. So yes, it does work, but it is very difficult to control. So
yeah, I don't think that would be probably not a great idea. Just, you know, I mean, there's so many wigs out there that you can find with a
Yeah, I would definitely just go with a light color than
It's
dye it.
definitely easier to go lighter, to take a lighter wig to go darker. So
Yeah.
if all else fails, get a white wig and just
Mhm.
spray it with yellow. I don't know.
Yeah.
So
Or get a really, really crummy, cheap blonde wig and then just start painting in some yellow tones and brown tones to kind of give it that like sun bleached look.
yeah. All right. So I guess let's close it out. So Kii-Chan, where can we find you?
You can find me on Facebook as Kii-Chan Cosplay, all is one word with K, C, and C all capitalized. And then Instagram is my little handle here, Kii-Chan _ cosplay. And then you can also find me on the dark side at TikTok as
I'm gonna pull up
Tiny,
Kii-Chan.
Tiny period, and then Rain Cloud. So yeah, go ahead. You can hit me up. I love answering questions. So if you feel like your question's dumb, there's no such thing as a dumb question. Like hit us up, whether it's on CosTalk Live or just go ahead and DM me. I answer questions very quickly, usually. So please go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a website, jinxcosplay.com. I'm also on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Twitch as the Jinx Cosplay. I'm gonna hopefully start streaming on Twitch again. We'll see. And yeah, just like Kii-Chan said, like any of us, you can message us on CosTalk Live or you can message us on our personal pages. We are so welcome to your feedback and your questions. Yeah, it's my website. Yay!
It's so pretty.
I need to update it, but yeah, there it is.
I'm in the process of updating all my social media and making sure they're all linked to each other, and it's been a mess. So I'm sorry about the construction. Don't mind my pages right now.
And then I am Sam from Thermo Cosplay. Go to thermocosplay.com and you can find all of my Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube information there. And then I also have an events page that explains where I stream, because I stream every Saturday in a crafting channel, and I just do different crafts every Saturday.
They're fun.
That I broke, or you know.
Tune in and hang out. And then, of course, the Discord is brand new, so we'll be posting that up. So keep an eye on it.
Yeah, we'll get more information out to you guys soon. So thank you for joining us, and I hope you all have a wonderful Sunday. And
Be safe and healthy. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.